Hello and welcome to Tabletop 24. I'm Alan.
I'm John.
I'm Brian.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of What Play Again, where we take a look at games that we've gotten to the table and how quickly we would find that they would get back to the table. Today we're taking a look at Arboretum from Renegade Games. It's a small box, small form game that is got a learn time of about 10 minutes. We've only got a couple of pages in the rulebook. It is a long fold out rulebook as you'll see here. And probably about 10 minutes for us to learn this. It obviously did take a little bit of a while to get to it, and we'll get to that a bit later. That sort of translates into a 5 to 10 minute teach time. It also depends on what type of group you're obviously teaching it to. It is a hand building, tableau building type game where you're going to have 7 cards in your opening hand. You will always have 7 cards in your hand, and you will be drawing cards, playing 1 into your Arboretum, and 1 into your discard pile that's available for everybody to pick up. So there's a lot going on in the structure of how the game works, and there's a lot of sort of thinking around what you're going to play and where you're going to play it. So getting it back to the table, you've got a 30-second sort of, it's pick up all the cards, reshuffle it out. Depending on your player count, you're going to play with a differing number of suits. So it is going to be fairly quick to sort of get it back through. Now, if you haven't caught up with it already, obviously this was one of John's purchases from Aircon. Mm-hmm. So what do you think, John?
I'm a sucker for a small box game, and if anything, the box for this could be even smaller. It is literally a deck of cards. The only thing that makes it bigger is the score pad, which they could have probably chopped in half. But I do like a little game that is big on impact, really, and this is definitely it. Playing it, we've 4 times now. Yeah. It's a very tense game because you're constantly trying to find that balance between, should I keep this card because it might do me well in a couple of turns, or get rid of it because it's going to do somebody else well, because you can pick up off anybody's discard piles. So it's quite tense in the fact that you've got to concentrate and just keep your mind focused on what you're doing. For a single deck game, it's quite tense and thinky.
I think you have to keep an eye on what other people have played as well, because they'll be collecting their own Arboretums. You need to sort of remember what numbers they played. To keep an eye on what's going on.
Yeah. So we don't normally talk about how to play the game. Obviously, at the end of the game, you will have a hand of cards, and you need a card in there that is going to enable you to score what you've played out in front of you. And the numbers will become important in that.
So I like this because it's quite a short game, 20-30 minutes to play, and it's so you can get out and be playing it, and then you're ready to. The ending does change when the ending happens. To play, I think you talk about later on what can trigger the ending. But saying it's a fast game to learn, I think, but it's a very slow game to master. It's a lot of complexity in there. There's a lot of subtlety going on. John, you played 4 or 5 times now. Most of those times he's scored 0 points.
So it's either 0, 10, or 20, or really high scores.
You score really well or really badly. I think because the way the game scores, it can catch you by surprise, really.
Yeah. It's interesting in that once I've played a game, I'm thinking about how to right the mistakes that I've made in future games. And that's what interests me in a game, is that I'm thinking about it after I've played it.
Yeah, and this happens with this game. Didn't it? For sure.
Yeah, and you really have to. You are almost to a degree playing the players a little bit, and to John's point, and a little bit to Brian's, is am I going to keep this card because I need to keep it away from that person, or I suspect I need to keep it away from that person.
I also found that you weren't quite sure as you were playing it how well you were doing in terms of how many points you'd end up getting at the end of the game. You can sort of see in your hand. I, for example, had a plan to get them to the table, but the game stopped too soon, so I couldn't get them to the table, so they didn't score anything for me. And same for other players. You can see what they've got and what they're building, but you're not sure, because of the scoring demands so much what's in your hand. You don't know what's in their hand.
And you want to keep hold of everything in your hand.
Just to John's point about it being quite a tense game, you don't really know where you are.
It can also lead you to the low scores because you can get shut out of scoring because you're keeping cards thinking I've got more time to play them. So you do have to just think of how far the deck's gone. There's about 2/3 gone right. I've got about 4, maybe 3 turns to get rid of something. So
there's a nice mechanic in there which I like, which is normally you work out who's going to score the card by having the highest cards. So if you hold on to the 8 because they're the highest card, but if you've got a 1, you can make that 8 into a 0. which can really turn the game around in some of the rounds. And I scored some quite a lot of points doing that.
Yeah, and obviously coming back to Brian's point earlier, one of the things that I find quite fascinating about this is the players are in control of when the game ends. To a degree, obviously, you're waiting for this middle deck to run out. Now, each player has a discard pile in front of them that they have to put a card on every round, but you could be picking up other players. Now, obviously, if you're picking up other players' cards, you're not depleting the deck, so you're not ending the game. The problem is the likelihood of all four of you in a game playing the same way. You've got some people that are probably going to go, well, this is the most points I'm going to score, right, go for it.
Yeah.
And just let's get as much out of that deck as I can. Or you've got other people that go, oh, I need to craft a little bit more out of this. There's a card at the bottom of that discard pile that I need to go and fetch. And
you could force it. You could force it, which is good, and it forces the other people to maybe change their tactic.
Yeah.
I think there's more depth to this than you would imagine on first thought or the looks of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all agree that the beautiful art by Beth Sobel is kind of just a tacked-on thing. They could be colours, they could be numbers, they could be stones, they could be cats, they could be dogs, they could be planes, they could be anything.
Yeah, I think the theme isn't necessarily for everyone. It might put some people off. A game about trees doesn't necessarily fire on cylinders, but it could be dinosaurs, spaceships.
And to that point, it might even be a little bit too abstract. So you are looking at numbers and cards in your hand. So there might be people that would, where this is a filler game, where they want to play that bigger thematic game or that bigger Euro.
Yeah.
I think the gameplay in this really attracts people that are probably looking at those things Euros. But the likelihood is they want a little bit of theme with that. And this, whilst it's pretty artwork and you are collecting Arboretum and it is there, it might be.
I think it would also attract traditional card players, like bridge players, for example.
Yes.
Yes. And it's very much about where you're placing the cards and what you've got to consider in your hand, and it's in that sense quite traditional. Yeah,
it's incredibly welcoming. I think you could take this to people like bridge players or somebody that's played a lot of different sort of traditional 52 card decks, and I think you should then get them further into the hobby. I could imagine this is the type of thing, not to be stereotypical, that you take to Christmas and play with your grandparents.
Yeah.
You could quite easily teach them to play on that. So.
Yeah, but not after too much sherry trifle.
Indeed, not too much sherry trifle. So, and one of the things, obviously, John, you said that you'd picked up
a lovely rule, probably one of my favourite rules in a game ever, for ties. So, declaring the winner, total player score paths. The player with the most points wins. In the case of a tie, the tie player with the most species present in the Arboretum wins. Yep. If there is still a tie, the tie players must each plant a tree. In 5 years' time, the player whose tree has grown the most wins. There you go.
And if you're a stats head like some of us are, that's going to be one hell of a long play game. Yeah. So
that's just a lovely.
That's a lovely little rule.
I mean, how many people are actually going to go out and plant a tree? But it's a nice little.
You normally see it how to pick the first player who's been to an airport the latest.
Yeah, who's been in the desert.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs game is who's got the longest beard, so I always go first. Playing with the kids, they got a chance.
So obviously from that is a bit of a roundup on that, and that's how we've found this game. So John,
I would play again now. It's a lovely game to play. It's a thinky game. It's deeper than you think. The cards are nice to look at. It's a lovely little small box single deck game. Yeah, thumbs up from me.
Fine.
I'd play it again soon. I liked it. I think it needs a lot more playing just to really get to grips with the techniques to build up a good hand and build up a good tableau. I liked it. Yeah.
Good. And for me, so we'll play again now. I think probably Brian's not played it. He's played it the least out of all of us. So I think potentially it could grow a little bit more on.
I played it one time and I liked it, but I think I need to play a couple more times just to really appreciate it a bit more.
So I think so we'll play again now. For me, it's something that's a really nice filler game. I think we'll bring it along to a lot of games nights, and if we've got half an hour left at the end of the evening, it's going to be one that will come out.
It's a cracking filler game. It is a cracking little filler game.
So, brilliant. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of We'll Play Again. If you haven't done so already, check out our other videos on the channel. Give us a like and a subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.
Bye.